Dries, welcome to the Potential is Human podcast, and thank you for giving me of your time so that we could connect today.
Thanks, Ryan. Great to talk to you once again. Thank you.
My pleasure. Dries, we've got to know each other through the work that you do, and we can touch on that in our discussion. But really what I wanted to point to today is the topic of burnout. You know, I look at society and we know about it, but in your case, I guess we know about it until we really know about it. Yet we so easily overlook burnout and we just keep going and that hamster wheel just keeps turning. So perhaps tell us a little bit about, what you do and how did the experience of burnout become something real for you?
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, I am basically involved in three specific areas in my work: coaching, training, and consulting. So that's what I do, and mostly with, let's call it, corporate clients, executives within a coaching area. And then I work with a lot of teams and companies and organizational development and growth, etc., and consult them, and mostly from a foundation of positive psychology and strengths. How to discover and then use the best of what you've got and the strongest energy and work within that. So I've been involved in that directly. I've actually been involved with this type of leadership development for more than 20 years, but this, let's call it the strengths-based approach, positive psychology approach, last, say, 15, 16 years that I've been really specializing and focusing on that area. And I'm really one of those people that can honestly say I love what I do. And maybe that's part of the problem that we're going to discuss is, loving what you do so much that you sometimes just don't look at all the gauges and stuff that you have to give attention to. So you ask about my experience in terms of burnout. I'll start here to say this because I think it's an important point, because that to me was kind of a wake-up call, is that before I experienced burnout myself, I considered myself as to know quite a lot about burnout. That's the irony. Because as a coach, as a consultant, I helped other people understand it, and I warned people against the dangers and all of that. So I was not at all, kind of unaware of the dangers, or I even thought that I knew the science of it, and that therefore I did not consider myself to be in a dangerous place within it, because I know what I know, and I was just sure that I'll do the right things in time if needs be. And I start with that because what I often encounter is, if I would ask people about burnout, and so they go, "Oh yeah, I know," or they would even say, "Yeah, I think I had some burnout a few years." And the moment that someone tells me they think they had burnout, I know they did not, because it's like a medical doctor once told me, "You won't think you have a heart attack. You'll know you'll have when you have a heart attack."
Fair enough, right?
It's not something, yeah. So it's when it strikes you, you will know it. My experience with it goes back to about 3 years to 2020. But there was quite a build up to it. I would say that I basically burned myself out for at least 6 to 8 years leading up to the real crash, if I can call it that, in 2020. So it came for a long time that in the sense that I loved my job so much and love what I do, and that I love to learn, love to grow, that I always felt that I have enough, fuel in my tank to keep going. And I also always felt that I had the energy and all of that, not to worry too much. And throughout the years, we, as a family, we would have a proper family vacation over the summer holidays in December of at least 3 weeks, if we can 4 weeks. And I thought that's perfectly sufficient, But during the year, to me, there was no real breaks. Maybe a quiet weekend here and there, but no long weekends, no other vacations. I would go flat out for 11 months and then slow down for 3 to 4 weeks. And that was my rhythm, And it seemed to me that was working well. I also, due to various business events, etc., I also went through a lot of stress, financial stress at times, and so it was not only the hard work, but it also what you carry, a lot of things you carry with you, and you have to process over a long period of time, etc. But here again, I want to say that because of other experiences that I had much earlier in my life, like in my 20s, I was a strong advocate for things like therapy and coaching as a coach as well. So I believed that you had to go for therapy if you needed, and I went when I felt I needed. And there was times in my life that I was in therapy for even a few years at a time. So again, I say this with a reason, because I was also not oblivious to the stress part, and that you need to talk things through and process it. I did that as well. So even from that point, I thought that I'll be okay, because I have my rhythm, and I go and I do what I have to do. And then in 2020, it just turned out that way, that there was kind of in my life this perfect storm. The perfect storm for everybody was the pandemic, and obviously that was one of it. But I had a few other things going in that time that all just accumulated to happen at the same point of time. I had a few huge projects that I took on. I wrote a book, and I was aiming to, or that I published early in 2020. That in itself has been quite a project to do that. It takes a lot of your time and effort. I was involved with 2 big training projects that I built, training courses. That was also projects that was like, the one was about 18 months and the other was about 6 months, and they're also simultaneously working on that. And then also my regular clients that I had, my individual people that I coach, and so I built up, when I would say by the time the pandemic hit in the early to mid 2020, I would easily have worked 14, 16 hours a day, at least 5 days, but say regularly 6 days a week. That was my rhythm. And then with the pandemic and being at home, that even just took it up a notch, because now, all the things that people already, now you're at home, and while people experience that, you work more. And the strange thing is that I loved it. I did not feel tired, Ryan. I did not feel overworked. And the first people who realized that I was taking this to a level that was unhealthy was my family. So they would start to, to push me, Dad, you're working too much. Slow down, Dad. This is not good. And when they said that, I was kind of irritated because they go, what do you mean? I'm here with you all the time. But the here with you was, we would sit together as a family and, and they would watch a movie or so, and I'll have my laptop and I'll be working. So I sit with them, but I'm not there. I'm working. And later on, it really went even into 7 days a week that I was engaged in work. Either in the sense that my family started to get frustrated with me because they said I'm distant. I'm not with them. Even if I'm not physically working, like have my computer or being on a meeting online, my mind was just not there. And they were right. I just thought, well, this is just a tough time. I've got a lot of things to do, a lot of things to complete. And plus, it's a pressure time with the pandemic. So I hear you, but just deal. We'll go into another season later. And I would say it was about, say, June 2020, when for the first time I started to feel tired, started to feel a bit exhausted, difficult getting up in the morning, tired. And I still went on because I had deadlines, I had stuff to complete. But I would tell my wife, yeah, I'm tired. I can feel I need a break. I need a break. And she said, yeah, it's right, you need a break. This is not healthy. But I would still go on. And then I started to, because I started to feel tired and feel the effect, I started to up the substances in my life. For instance, coffee. I went like, I was always big on coffee. But I would then like put it up to, I don't know, 12, 15 cups a day easy, It's like a chain of coffee just coming all the time, keeping the caffeine doses going. And then even I did a terrible thing that I realize now, but then I added some supplements like energy drinks, Red Bull and so on, because it gave me the kick that I needed. So I would like work and I'll go buy a few Red Bulls and I'll have one in the morning. I felt like, yeah, now I'm great and I can go. And then as I dipped, I had another one and I spiked again. And at that stage also, I was quite a heavy smoker as well. So my habits that I had to kind of keep me going, either from a stress level or from an energy level, was started to get more and more unhealthy. Okay, and to the point of really dangerous. And I don't have to tell you also that if you sit and work all the time, that's not healthy. And you did also not look at my eating habits at all. I would go without a meal until the evening and then have a big meal and stuff like that. Stuff that a lot of us know about what we do when we really push along. Okay, so that's just to show the pattern that I went into and where I was at that stage. And I had then a deadline was end of August for the last of my youth, and there was actually 2 projects that ended on that day. It was a Friday, last Friday of August in 2020, and I made it to that. I remember that the afternoon, the feeling when I did the last work, I submitted the last, sent the last email, everything right on time, fantastic, all done, and I went to my wife and I said, yeah, this is great, I did it and it's all good, and now maybe I can slow down a bit. And then I phoned some of my friends, which I haven't seen because that was also in the time that the lockdown eased up a bit for the first time. So I phoned some of my friends and I say, hey, who'd like to go out for a beer tonight? And a few of us got together, who went out, had a nice time. For the first time, I had my mind off work and just kind of relaxed. And then went back home. And then that night, in the middle of the night, I woke up and I felt like what I then thought was a heart attack. I felt like I can't breathe. And I had this heavy pressure on my chest. I felt hot and cold all the time. And I woke my wife and I said, you better get me to the ER. I think I'm having a heart attack. There's something seriously wrong here. And I felt my heart racing quite high, and I had to struggle for air. I even then, obviously, you also think maybe I have COVID, could be this, that it's striking me back then. But so she took me to the ER, and they looked at me and they said, well, it sounds like a heart attack. And they immediately got a lot of doctors around, put me on all the monitors and got blood and stuff and oxygen on, and started all the tests and all this stuff. And I was in the emergency room for a few hours, and the test starting coming back. First thing, the doctors came back saying, you're not having a heart attack. The blood test, and so it's not a heart attack. Yeah, that's okay. You don't have COVID. We did that test. That's fine. And then they started a few other things. And at one point they told me, okay, all we can think is that you had a panic attack. Usually what people would say in that sense. So I went like, okay, then I probably had a panic attack. Also, I knew what that was, so I did not deny that, maybe that's what I had. But I felt that I was totally exhausted. I felt like, really, this is terrible. But they released me. I went back home. They did not give me anything or gave me any diagnosis or so. They just said, take it slow. The doctor just said, you need to rest. I'm like, I know that. Okay, I'll rest. So I went back and I thought, okay, maybe if I have a few days rest and sleep, I'll bounce back. But it very fast went south. It went worse. So that Saturday, I just slept and by Sunday, I could not get out of bed at all. I was just, I could not move my arms. I could not move my legs. I felt paralyzed. So I really thought, what the hell is going on here? This is, so I was, at the doctor, and they said, I'm fine. They did the initial tests. But then I went back. My wife took me to my GP, the doctor, and he ran all the tests that he could think of. Took me through all the tests, send it in, results start coming back. Nothing wrong. They can't find anything. There's nothing that they can tell me that's wrong. And then my doctor then told me, he said, you probably just burnt out. Okay. It's all we can think, you're burnt out. So just rest. And I go like, okay, so I'm burnt out. I'll accept that. So I'll rest, but I could not understand why this was so severe physically. And then what started to happen is mentally, I also started to drop completely, brain fog completely, and I struggled to communicate. So then I would when I talk to my family, they would look at me strange, and I'll go and say, why aren't you responding? Why are you looking? And they would look at me and go like, Dad, what's wrong? What are you saying? And I'll repeat what I'm saying. And when I repeat it, it sounds perfect. I would ask him something, please say, for instance, bring me a glass of water. And they look at me strange. And I go like, please bring me a glass of water. Why don't you? And they go, Dad, what's wrong? And then they said, we don't understand what you're saying. I go like, how can't you understand what I'm saying? And they then explain to me what they hear is gibberish. I would go, blah, blah, blah. That's what they heard. I did not hear that. I would speak and it sounded, my brain translated it as being fine. They could not understand what I was saying. So there was a disconnect there. And again, you know, under normal circumstances, you'd think, okay, so you're having a stroke. So I would take my own blood pressure and all. No, it's not a stroke. So what's going on? And then in the days that follow and the weeks that followed, I really just got to a point where I could not eat anymore simply because I did not have the energy to eat. I could not take anything in. And remember, that's the COVID time, so they don't just admit you in a hospital, because in normal circumstances, my wife said she found a friend that's a medical doctor. She said, listen, we think we should get him. And he said, there's no way they're going to admit him, because what's the diagnosis? Normally, they could take him and just give him rest in a hospital and put him on, but not now. There's no beds. You know, I just had to lay in bed, and then someone told us about a health clinic nearby that gives you you know, like a drip that you intravenous that you can put in, and it will give you some energy. So I went there, and that doctor who had a different approach, because remember, now all the people and my own doctor, they can't do anything to me. They said you burned out and we can't. Even they say now even supplements and so won't really help. So I went to a different approach with the doctors, and they then said, okay, let's start to something else. And they put me in this you know, this pods where you have no sensory feeling, where you float. You know, I don't know if you know about those pods.
I have heard about them, yeah.
Float in, yes. And there's no light, no sound. It's soundproof, and you don't feel anything because you just float. So I was in that for a few sessions. That was an amazing feeling, and that you can really just feel that there's no senses on your body at all. And then they started to give me the grips that I would, what they call jet fuel. And at that stage, literally, I could not work. For my mind, I could not. If I tried to type something, it would be garbage. My brain did not function anymore. I could not properly. I spoke with words rather than sentences. So my brain kind of shut down. Struggled to walk. So I literally had crutches that I walked with. And I would, when it got too worse, I'll go to that clinic, and I literally go in step by step with crutches, and I sit for an hour, and they have stuff, and that would get me going enough energy to at least move around and have energy to eat something for about 10 days. And then I'll have to go back again, because then everything dropped again. So that was kind of the state that I was in, Ryan, is like an invalid. It's someone from working full pace, effective, everything, light drunk, a total crash where your body won't function, your mind won't function. And for me, one of the scariest things is that I did not know what's going on and what can I do about it. Yes, okay, this is burnout, but I've never heard about this type of burnout. So, and what can I do about it? So then another friend that I had in Cape Town, his wife had quite a struggle with her health, and he was under the care for a few years of a professor at the UCT, and she said to me, this professor, she doesn't really take in new patients, but she will ask her a favor to have a talk to me on Zoom. And just have a talk and maybe 1 or 2 calls with me, so I can just see if she can at least listen to my story and help me. And so I connected with this professor, amazing woman, and she also started. She said, "Tell me your story," and she asked me questions about my past and my work, and she just kind of asked me to get information, and then I went through basically the same story that I told you now with her, and she listened to everything, and then she told me, okay, so I will, as nobody else would diagnose you, I'll diagnose you. You have what we call the stage 12 total burnout. You crashed. Your body and your mind and everything just called a halt to you. It won't go on. And then she also told me the following. She said, you must feel extremely grateful, because there's just two directions that this goes. Most people don't have this discussion because they die. So most people don't even know they have burnout. They would get either a heart attack, or they'll get a stroke, or they will just collapse and die. And people say, and usually it's those cases that we all hear about. Oh, I just spoke to him yesterday. He was fine. I saw him drive, jog past our house. Or yes, I saw him at work and he was under those cases that you suddenly just, boom, someone dies. She told me a lot of that is burnout. That people just die. In your case, for some reason, you have a second chance, and you can either take it and do something about it or not. And then she told me, I'll guarantee you won't live long, because you used up all the resources you have, and you have to start building it back on. And then I asked her, okay, what do I do? Can you help me? What do I do? Because my doctors, nobody can do anything for me. They just tell me rest. And I ask her, what does that mean, to rest? Because I lie down because I have to, but I can't just lie down for the rest of my life. I'm young, I need to go on. I want to work. I love my work. What can I do? And then she said, okay, so I'll tell you a few things that you can and should do, and then you decide if you do it, because this will be radical. And I said, well, I have no choice. I'll do radical. She said, okay. So she said, the first thing is you think, and then she said, the first thing is you, for the next 2 weeks, you clear your calendar. You and your wife, you go to a place that, when you think of a place where you can have total solitude and rest, where would that be for you? And I said, well, for me, it's the Karoo. That's where I go. I love the Karoo. And she said, perfect. You go to the Karoo, go book in on a farm somewhere, not in a town, somewhere where there's no people. And I told her, okay, and then for 2 weeks, what do I do? She said, nothing. You sit there. You sit and you look at nature. That's what you do. And you sleep. Okay. And so that's the first thing. And I said, okay. And we did that. So we got, and we went to the Karoo, and for 2 weeks, literally on a farm, just outside Oudtshoorn, we sat. Great, but to me, terrible in the sense that I could not do anything. I did not sleep well. I would wake up at night with my heart racing. I could not eat properly. So it was not a vacation in that sense. We did not go around and have fun. But it was good to have just a mental breakaway where you don't see anybody. Then when I was back, she told me, okay, now you're going to go into changing your life and all of your rhythm. And then she also guided me in terms of a mindset change that to this day I adopt and I use. And she said, you must stop thinking about balancing your life, because people talk about work-life balance, and that's not possible. You thought you balanced your life by working 11 months and taking off 1 month, etc. You saw it's unbalanced. Other people do it differently. It doesn't always. So stop thinking about trying to balance your life. You need to find a rhythm for your life. It's about work-life rhythm, not balance. So change your mind to discover a new rhythm that would be foreign to you. Because if you would have done this years ago when you were healthy, you would have continued on a fast rhythm. You can't do that anymore, because she also told me that I probably have brain damage to some extent, which is true. I know that now, because there are certain things that I'm not intellectually capable of anymore than I've been before. I know that, not serious, but like forgetting more easily stuff, or at some point I know when my brain tells me you can't work anymore, and if I don't stop, then I would just blank out, like totally blank out, don't know what to say. So I have some, some damage that's been done to some nerves through this. So I had to find a new rhythm, and for that, she also told me I need to move away from the city and where I work. So to get to the solution side, that's what we did by the end of, in December of 2020, we packed up everything and we moved down to the garden route, where we live now. We bought a house here in a small town of Sedgefield, which by the way is also known as Slow Town. And that was good for me because I had to slow down in Slow Town. Everything here is a lot slower. It's coming from the city in Pretoria, where it's all moving around, here to going one robot in town, one circle, and a lot of nature and all of that. Was a complete shift for our whole family, a total, regrouping, and a total new understanding of what it is to live differently and find a new rhythm. I was also never someone that gave specific attention to my health in terms of hobbies and activities. I would have seen a hobby for me was to listen to a podcast or to read. And when I did that, it was work related. All right. So that to me was my hobbies. Then on advice as well, I went down something that I, as a youngster, as a kid, I always thought one day I'm going to have my own boat and have a skipper's license. So I bought a boat and I got my skipper's license and I started to get on the water regularly. And I started to crawl my way back into work, and literally, Ryan, I would say crawl back. It started where I could literally work 30 minutes a day, answer a few emails. And then 30 minutes I could take to an hour with 2 30-minute slots, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. That was what I was capable of. Wasn't capable of more. And so I would build it. Now, luckily for me, and I would say this is probably grace on the one hand, but also the way I've worked with my clients has also been very strongly relational. So I had the support, even if they did not know detail. My clients kind of waited on me. I could tell them I take a sabbatical or so and I'll be back, or just slow down with projects and so, but and they were all happy with that. So that helped. But I had to crawl my way back into a rhythm and find out what's my new pace for work. What can I What can I take, and how much can I take of it? And I built that up with a consciousness of taking regular breaks, having naps in the afternoon, taking days off in a week. And remember, as I say this, most people who listen to this will go, yeah, that's impossible. I could never be able to do that because I have a job, etc. Well, yes, the news, I also had a job. And my job, I did not get a salary. I worked for myself. So no work, no pay. So I had to delve into life savings to survive in that time. So it took an enormous sacrifice financially to do this. But it was either that, there was no choice anymore. Either that, or I could just say, okay, no life anymore, or live like an invalid. So I had to find a new rhythm, I had to find a new way of engaging with everything and everyone around me. Different, obviously, my habits in terms of eating and so and exercise had to change drastically. Where cut out all sugar, all substances, stopped smoking, stopped drinking. I take no alcohol. I don't smoke anymore. I won't touch any I don't drink coffee anymore at all. So I'm radical to a point on what I put in my body now. Like, for instance, and this is also something that I was advised by that professor, is I should treat myself as if I have terminal cancer.
Wow.
That's how I should think. If I don't think about it that way, I'm going to neglect myself again because I'm in a lifetime habit. And she told me, remember, the moment that you're going to stop caring for yourself, you're going to start dying. Okay? So you need to care yourself back to life and then keep yourself cared for in order to sustain a life going ahead and get a life with good rhythm. So that's the mind shift I had to make and had to engage in. Currently, this is now in 2 months' time. It would be 3 years ago that I had the crash. Where am I now, and how far did I build it up? I feel very fortunate because I'm at a time that I can work again full time. My schedule now would be that I try to limit myself to 6 hours a day, 4 days a week. Okay, that's coming from 16 to 18 hours, 6 or 7 days a week. So that's a radical shift. I had to work through stuff of feeling useless, feeling lazy. I had to go through all those mental turmoil about it. If pressure is on, remember, it's a rhythm, and a rhythm at times you can go faster, but you need to slow down. So if I need to, like next week, I'm off to a client overseas again for a week. I know, tough week coming. This week, I have basically a clear calendar, and I take it very slow because next week I know it's going to be 5 days of about 8 hours a day, back to back, that I'm going to work. I know I'll be able to do it, but I prepare myself. And then when I get back, I again have like 3 or 4 days that I rest in order to do it. If I don't do that, there was a few weeks ago, I had a scare again because I went fast and I did not look after my rhythm. And again, I got to a space, luckily this time only for about a day or two, where I just felt I need to lie down, just breathe. I can feel my heart's not happy. My mind started to get foggy. I felt this light going on. And that's what the doctor meant when she told me you need to treat yourself as if you have terminal cancer, because you've burnt your body to a point where it won't like it. The moment they see signs that it go back, your body will go, no. If you go back there, I'm out of here. I'm not I'm not living with you in that way. It's what my body kind of tells me, and I can feel it. So I have to be very careful. I did get to know people with similar experiences through this time and through networking research that I did. And I say I feel very fortunate because there are people in the worst cases that can never work again, that have to go on medical retirement completely. There's people that struggle to do just the basic stuff. Some struggle physically to do stuff. Some get other illnesses that rides on the back of your body being broken down. And there are those that's fortunate enough to get to a point where they can go completely back and can work full days again, etc., in a rhythm, and do not have this, this caution that I have to have. And I don't know. I learn to listen to my body. I listen to my soul. I listen to my mind, and if I can turn it up, and I have to, obviously I will. But I'm careful. I don't have this massive change the world goals anymore. I live in the moment. I live for the moment. I love it. I discovered a lot about new life in myself. I discovered new things in my soul. I discovered new life with my family. I discovered a new life in my environment and in nature, that I was oblivious to, because of the trap of that we live in society. So, yeah, Ryan, that's kind of the essence of my story. So I'm glad to be where I am. I'm very grateful, but I won't wish this on anyone. And now when I consult or coach people on burnout, it's a different discussion. It's not an intellectual discussion that I have. It is a very serious discussion. If I have it with people, I because I talk out of experience, and I'm now able to tell them out of experience the danger of how far it can go, and that they should not treat burnout is not tiredness. It's not the same thing. Okay, burnout is not just having had a tough few weeks of working hard. It's not the same thing. Burnout is pushing and burning your body for a too long time, to the extent, if something burns out, there's no substance left to burn.
Yeah, well said.
That's the difference.
Mm.
There's nothing left. I can't say this is a candle. I can't burn it out and then say I'm going to light it. There's no candle anymore. That's the essence of having complete burnout. So now you have to build back something that you could light and that you could live off, because mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, you depleted that there's nothing left. And most people, I'm afraid, run on empty with that, and they burn fumes all the time. And yeah, it's not a good thing, obviously. So that's it.
There's so much which you've said that is important, right? And we can unpack the different stages of that journey. But I'm interested, one, in, you mentioned the 12 stages of burnout, and stage 1 is still classified as burnout, yet you were at 12, you were at the limit. When you were drinking the coffee and the energy drinks and, behaviors were different, did you know it was because you were just trying to keep going? Or you said you love your work, right? You have joy in what you do. Were you unconsciously just doing it, not knowing what was bubbling below the surface?
Good question. I definitely was aware that I'm pushing myself to an unhealthy place, that I'm pushing myself harder than I should. But I was not aware of the damage that I was doing in the process. At that stage, I still regard it as something that I can easily bounce back off if I just take a few days or weeks off. So if I finish this, take some time off, I'll be back like always in the past. Go on vacation, come back, take on a new year. So that was my mindset. And I was kind of using, caffeine and sugar and glucose and everything to push me over that finish line so that I can rest to then start again. In some way, and even that's quite a bit naive, to think, because why would things just like slow down and go? It's always a new challenge, always a new project, always new things. So I was definitely. I only learned about the different stages later on when I researched this deeper, and when I started to read up on it and listen to people more attentively, and then I realized also that this is the shocking thing that I experienced also, Ryan. The first sign that you have with yourself in burnout is basically around stage 9 or so, when you don't feel like yourself anymore. You start to feel disconnect of yourself, and then it's at stage 9 out of 12. You are quite a long distance down the road already. All the other stages are hidden. It's just like things like work hard and telling yourself it's okay. That's a stage, working very hard and telling yourself it's okay. It's hidden, and it's even hidden positively. It's hidden with, oh no, this is good, this is strong, this is what we should do. The other thing is, I also tell people, remember that you burn out on your passion and your talents and strengths. You don't burn out by engaging with stuff that you hate, and so, because you won't sustain that. Why did I keep on for so long working the way I did? Because I was passionate about it. I loved it. I was good at it. It was part of my talents and my strengths and my knowledge and my skill and my experience. And that is what I burned out on. So often when I talk to people, they will tell me, no, I know I'm working hard, but I've been working hard all along. I'm great at this. I can do more than others. When they start talking that, I go like, two things here. The one is kind of denial, and the other thing is you don't realize what you're burning out on. You think in order to burn out, you must hate every moment of it. Surprise, surprise. You can love every moment of it and burn out.
Mm-hmm.
So, sometimes, Ryan, we're so naive about stuff. I remember in one of my first discussions or meetings that I had with a professor at UCT, she asked me, she said, Mr. Lombard, I want to ask you something random. Do you take your car in for a service now and then? And I said, oh yeah, no, I do. She said, when? And I said, when it's time to service, I have a book and I take it in. She said, really? Don't you wait for it to break before you take it in? And I said, no. She said, so why are you doing it with your body then?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you looking after your body after it breaks? Why don't you take care of it and service it on a pattern and a rhythm like you do your car? You will take your car in and nothing is wrong because you're scared something will go wrong and it will leave you next to the road, right? Yes. And yourself, ain't it more important to look after yourself so it won't leave you next to the road? Because that's what happened to me. I had a breakdown next to the road,
Yeah.
because I did not take care of myself.
Yeah. And Dries, when you were, and it's not just you when I say this, it's the society, at least, that we're a part of, that hyper focus on doing and always being connected. You said things when you were sharing your journey with us around like being with your family, but not really being present, being on your laptop, which you're still being engaged in work. We go to restaurants, we see families at a table, but all connected to their phones. I'm with people where they say, we're in discussions, hold on, I really just need to take this call, right? Yet life then brings us these experiences of challenge and suffering. When I heard you say particularly you didn't have the energy to eat or walk, but you had to take a few steps at a time, that can only try and explain to me the level of exhaustion you are now experiencing. Where do you think we've lost it? And maybe you can see this through your own experience in terms of identity, right? The doer, the achiever, the guilt that is hidden below the surface when we're not doing, when we are caring for ourselves, because what it really is being completely lost in doing, and this lack of spaciousness for being, which you've now had to go and cultivate and create in a different town. Is there a fix, or do people have to burn the candle out to realize that we've got it wrong?
Yeah, it's such an incredible topic that you touch on now. Important question that, because yeah, it's got to do with a mindset, and not only a mindset, but let's call it a soul set. You know, how you set your soul and your mind and everything in terms of engaging with life. And we are kind of sucked in by society and by work and by everything. We sucked in on all areas to an extent that we dehumanize. That's the problem. We dehumanize completely. Just being connected all the time, just being, having to live on a device, and it's so easy, and it's so nice, and it's so entertaining, and it's so distracting, and all of that we do it normal. We find it normal to do it all the time. And that addiction to information, addiction to distraction. And people will say, no, I'm not addicted. If you find yourself walking in your home with your phone in your hand, walking from the kitchen and back to your study with a phone in your hand, you have a serious addiction problem. If you need to be if you at least can have the phone and put it down somewhere and forget about it and not touch it, and if someone calls, and people, you see, the problem is, tell me, let's just on this topic a bit, on being connected. How many would you say that it changed that you get calls rather than messages? We don't live in a call where it rings. This thing never rings. But it connects me all the time with having to look at the screen, and that's why we walk around with it, because it won't ring and call me. I have to look at it every now and then to see, is there another WhatsApp, another text, another email? Okay. So it sucks us into this world of being distracted all the time and not being, and that distraction then goes towards distracted from each other, distracted from relationships, distracted from nature, disconnect from nature completely. Even more so if we, like most people, have to live in a city where you don't have nature anymore. And just what I realized in the enormous privilege that I have to live, every day now when I go out, I'm confronted by nature. I'm confronted by the lake just down our house, and the ocean and the mountains. I'm now sucked in by that. That's what, but it's a decision to have put myself in that space. And I'm not naive enough to say everybody can or should do that. Obviously, there's a lot of other circumstances. But when you work on this rhythm and have to find yourself in a space where you need to get spaces where you can slow down and quiet down, okay, to drive, and even that is, you make that a new habit, and it's so difficult in the normal rush of, it's interesting. When the first time after we moved here, first time I went back to Gauteng, it's about 6 months after we've been here, and flew back we got a car, and I nearly got a panic attack in that traffic. And that was after a lifetime, after more than 50 years, having grown up there. Okay, that's my valley. It's the city life. But just how you could disconnect and then go back, then suddenly you see what's happening, and the noise and the pressure and the things that everybody's fighting to get something out of you and get a part of your attention. So what do we do about this? And that's why I say it's really a sacrifice that we need to start with a mindset. We need to make specific decisions, and also it's a decision that will alienate you from people around you.
Yes.
Okay. You will stand out as someone that's not normal. You will start to, it's so funny. Just last year, we had friends coming to visit here, and at some stage, my friend looked at me and he said, there's one thing that I don't envy you. And I said, what? He said, you became very lazy. And I looked at him and I said, what you call laziness, my friend, I call life.
Yes.
And I can understand why you call it lazy, because I would have called it lazy as well a few years ago. Now, it's not late. And I don't envy your hurriedness. That's what I don't, I can't take that anymore, to rush everywhere. But to try and get some kind of a rhythm with smaller breaks that you have in between, just that. If you can just have breaks that you break your day. And it's, again, I know the pressure from work and people is high, but if you can, at least, and you can take a recurring break in your diary, and you just break out that you can have a mid-morning break of 30 minutes, an early afternoon break of 30 minutes, a late afternoon break of 30 minutes. 30 minutes to do what? Well, nothing is fine. Okay, sit with your eyes, put on some earphones, listen to music, close your eyes, go for a walk in the garden, do something like that. Get new habits of meditation, get new habits, just calm down and have these breaks. Don't do the long stretch and then break. Okay. That's damaging. That's also important, to take long breaks. Keep up with that. But the healthiest is to get in a rhythm that gives you a life of things you do, hobbies you have, that connects you with people and connect you with nature, and disconnect you from work. That takes a very, very strong mindset to do that.
I think it takes such a strong mindset because it's become so programmed and so habitual, right, in this modern connected world. Dries, with these experiences comes new awareness. In your own opinion, because I kind of get the question that comes up when you're talking, like, what's the rush? We're either rushing towards ideas of who we think we must become, or we're running away from, hidden patterns associated with our self-identity. In your opinion, did you see like lack, worry, financial ideas of, what's going to happen to me if I don't work 14 to 16 hours a day, that you've now, you could say, transcended and found actually more acceptance towards?
Yeah, very, very valid. And my answer to that I think it will make sense to you, Ryan, but out of experience, I know it won't make sense to most people. They will either think I'm crazy, or they would think, no, that's not the direction they want to think or go. I'm a firm believer, out of experience, that you create what you get around you, in terms of how you live and what you put out there. You create your universe. You create what's coming towards you. and that could be positive or it could be negative. If you work more and more and more and faster, you create a world of faster and more and the need to work more, because you as you open the one side on this side to bring in more, it flows faster out as well in many ways. So you're in a fast flow. As you start turning it down a bit, the slow is faster, you have less that you lose. You hold on to more. You can live with more, and I don't only mean financial. I know in many ways you need less. You rediscover simplicity. You rediscover beauty. And within that mindset, what I discovered is I would say I work, so the way that I have been working, I work probably about at least 60, sometimes 70% less. Okay. I'm in a situation that my income is the same or even more than it was. All right.
Yeah.
And I created that. If people tell me, "Oh, you're lucky," I go, "No, I created that." For instance, I decided that with certain of my clients, I am now more expensive because my time's more valuable than it was. The time that I give you is now my health that I give you. It's my life that I give you. And I only gave you previously my work and my knowledge. It was less valuable. Now I'm giving you a lot more. You're going to pay more. So I got more expensive. I did not lose one client at all. They just went, okay, there you go. All right. So I'm not saying that's the answer. Charge more, work less. I'm giving my example, but because it starts with an attitude of abundance towards an attitude of scarcity. If you have an attitude of scarcity, you'll always have to work more and pile up more, and because everything will always be scarce. If you can get an attitude of abundance and gratefulness for what you have and what you need, in some mysterious way, you get abundance. It comes your way. And I know a lot of people will have long frowns and discussions with me and say, "Oh, they know they can give a name to my philosophy or whatever." I'm sure. I've been there, done that, got the T-shirt. I'm talking now about a life that I embrace. I'm not talking about something I can write a book on. It's not something I coin. It's how I live every day. And in order to do that, you have to choose against every day. You need to choose against again and against. Stop certain things. What do you stop doing? Where do you go? Where do you move away from? Where do you move to? Who do you spend your time with? All right. Who's worthy of the time that you give them, either as clients or as friends or as whatever. So in a way, you become a lot more selfish, because you value things in a different manner. So you think about things before you do it, and you do it differently as well. And I know this sounds a bit esoteric and philosophical and so, but I have no other way to explain it to you.
Yeah.
There's no model. There's no business strategy that I can give you, because it's day by day by day. Is there still times that I worry and go like, "Gee, how am I going to pay the bills?" Yes. Yeah, I'm alive. I live in South Africa. Is there times that I worry about everything? Yes. I'm not, this is still the real world. Okay. But you have a choice how you engage with that, and how do you live with that fear or not. And that same choice you can have everywhere you live. It's not tied to a specific place. It's tied to a mindset. It's tied to a decision that you make. And it all boils back to here is a one sentence philosophy that I do embrace in life, that I learned. You get what you create. You get what you create. And I now choose to create for myself a slow life, a life of awareness, a life of beauty, a life of simplicity, but also a life of much more abundance than I had before. But I create it every day. I get up in the morning and I create this life. It doesn't come my way. I make it.
Appreciate you speaking my language, because I feel and I know where you're speaking from, and it's because you've lived the experience, you've been through that fire. And some people, if it sounds esoteric, they may have to go full circle to then come back to this one day and be like, Dries knew something. And yes, because you've experienced it, it's experientially known. You mentioned soul set, and I get on the mindset side, and I've got to know you as well, and your skills and your intellect. Soul set now in Sedgefield. What has really matters to Dries? What going slow, you said, we heard about your fishing, because that's the richness of life, is when we actually are present and slowing down, not chasing the richness we think we need. So what are those things that you've now implemented into the rhythm that really just give you that sense of spaciousness and moving slower?
The value of time first, the time that I have every day, that's something I now think differently about. How I use my time, living in the moment, here and now, trying not to think too far ahead, plan too far ahead, be too far ahead, being realistic with what you plan and what you prepare for, yes. But it's kind of grounding yourself, the whole thing of being grounded. There's a book with an amazing title, and the title says it all. You don't have to read the book unless you want some great skills. The book is Be Where Your Feet Are. And since I moved here, I discovered how it is to be where my feet are. Because where I've been, I've never been where my feet were. I was always chasing somewhere else or being engaged in some kind of other vision or dream or hurriedness. So that groundedness, that in the moment, standing still, listening to a sound, watching something, watching a bird in the sky or whatever, seeing people that you walk past, if you go outside, greeting them, smiling at them, getting to know your neighbors, something that was foreign to me in the city. Now we know our neighbors. We greet them by name. We stop. If we drive past them, we stop, say, how are you? How are you doing? How's your day? How's it going? Unfortunately, you can't do that anywhere. but I created that space where I could do that and could live. So time is the one essence. The other thing I would summarize in terms of beauty. Be much more aware of the beauty around us, the beauty of people, the beauty of uniqueness in people, the beauty of the different elements and areas of nature, the beauty of living together and seeing people around you grow with you and develop with you, and seeing my elderly mother growing old and weak, and seeing some kind of a beauty in that, of a life well lived, and seeing my children growing up and experiencing it with them. And it's an awareness. It's becoming more and more aware. So I would say, if I can summarize it, is from someone who's always had an emphasis on knowledge and understanding and skill, and I want to understand stuff up here, and I want to process it, and I want to put it in a system or a model, and it must make sense. To now embrace things that doesn't make sense as mystery and beautiful, and being able to work with that and live with that, and part of all this is it's only possible if you live slow. You need to slow down, and slow is different for different people, okay, and different for different communities. But we need to slow down. We can't live at the pace we're living. So how do I see myself now? A lot slower in everything, a lot slower. And even in the way I execute, even in the way where in the past, if a client asked me for quote, I'll tell them you'll get it now, and I won't get up until I emailed that quote, even if it takes a few hours. Now I'll tell them, okay, I'll send it to you as soon as possible, maybe towards the end of the week or whatever. If I send it earlier, bonus. If not, they can wait. I slow down. I'll send it to them as I get any to send it to them. And if they want to walk away from me because they have to wait 2 days for a quote, goodbye and good riddance.
Yeah.
You know, because as I say goodbye to you, some other client moves in that's willing to do it, you know, and do even better. So yeah, those experiences of being connected and learning more about that, about also the holistic part of how everything is connected, our body and how we react. You know, just what I've learned through the journey that I've been on, and many people will tell that to you if they go through any health scare and they start how much you learn about your body. You know, but just to learn how sensitive we are and how we really have how strong we could be and how far we can push ourselves, yes, but on the other hand, how fragile we actually are and how careful we should be on and becoming more aware of this is a topic for a whole different day, Ryan, but I'm totally amazed on what we are sold and given to eat in the world. It's shocking, you know. And if you make a choice to eat more healthy and natural and so on, and to stop, you know, where we were in the pattern when we lived in the city, we were in the pattern like if you order takeouts 3 or 4 times a week because you're in a hurry, you do that. You order takeouts, Uber Eats, bring, and what do you want? You want a pizza? Okay, I'll take a KFC, or you take what? Let's just stuff something in our mouth so we can go on. That's how we live. That's how we roll. Okay. And you drive onto a meeting, you stop at the garage, you buy a cool drink and a pie, and you eat while you drive, and that's how we live. And then to get and think of, no, you know, the whole, also slow down in terms of that. Think about why you eat and what you really need and what you don't need. And now, I mean, we don't have, well, we do have restaurants that will make you a takeaway meal, but we don't have a KFC or a Roman's Pizza or so in our town. So we don't eat those stuff. It's not that kind of convenience here, and it's so better for us in all that. It's not that trappings, you know. But again, it takes a conscious decision on how you want to live and how you don't want to live.
Dries, you've hit on so many phenomenal points. I'm inspired to ask you one with regards to family, because I know there's so many parents out there, some who may hear this discussion, who are moving at 180 k's an hour, who are pushing it and deeply just want that connection and time with their family. So how has your relationship, being a husband and also being a father, how have those relationships deepened, and what has been afforded to you in slowing down with the people you love the most?
Well, our whole family dynamic has changed. The whole family got more healthy. You know, I have 4 daughters, and the youngest is going to matric now. The others, you know, one of them worked close by at the local hotel or guest house that she works in. It's a dynamic of regrouping ourselves as a family as well, and slowing down as a family, and what we expect and how we support. So the awareness has gone to a total different level. You have so much more time that you want to invest with each other, that you just want to spend together, that the space where you spend it, in the city, if we want to have time together, you have one option on where you go. It's a local mall. Okay, so you can choose out of 6 or 10 malls in a 5K range in the city. So choose a mall. Then when you go to the mall, it's where will we eat? Okay, and then will we go for a movie? Okay, and that was basically the sum total of what you'll do. Now, the dynamic of us as a family is the weather looks great. Where will go? Will we go to the beach for a walk, or will we go boating on the lake, or we go driving to the mountains and we'll go over the mountain and spend time in the Karoo, or what, and not one of them takes money. You don't buy anything from anyone to do it, you engage, and you together with all of them, you actually talk to each other, you actually spend time together with that. So it's yes, it definitely strengthened. Do you still have the normal family feuds and irritation? Of course you do. I mean, it's not this. I'm not painting a Disney picture here. That's not the thing. But the whole experience that I had, that where I was at the point of being ended and having to get back to create something new. With all relationships, I enjoy it so much more, but I'm so much more selective on who and how I spend time with. Even my friends back in Gauteng, when I go there, I love to spend time with my friends over there, and I enjoy it so much more. Got so much more just to talk about and to enjoy about each other and to laugh together and so on. I deepened my friendships even over a distance, because I'm more awake and I'm more aware, and I have more to give of myself. And same for family, same for in a marriage as well.
Mm-hmm. Dries, the question I have to ask you: would you say that word awareness? Would you say awareness is key, and self-awareness is really our superpower? Because without the awareness, right? So if there's a lack of awareness, how can we choose differently?
Sure. See, the level of your awareness will determine the level of your life. That's it. Wherever you want to go, you need to go with awareness first, and your life can follow in any area. And to gain awareness is in most instances is scary, because it's new. So that's why most people choose not to go there, because it is frightening. It's scary. Self-awareness is probably one of the most scary journeys you can take on. Vulnerability, understanding your own fears, your own, weaknesses, and your own strengths as well. But awareness for me, in just in the basic sense of connecting with the reality of this, I'm aware of what it is, and I face it for what it is, and I learn more about it. So I become more aware of where I'm in, where I'm at, what I'm facing. Just that mindset, rather towards the mechanical being survival mode of being unaware and just going on. So if you ask that question, you say, I think for me personally, awareness is an ongoing prerequisite to stay alive in a healthy space. You must always discover more through awareness. And it's not only, now we're only talking about self-awareness. Then you go to other awareness. And then you're going to go to awareness of things beyond what we usually will discover or think. You can go to a spiritual awareness or emotional awareness or deeper senses. If you want to, you could go there. But that to me is the leading edge of where we go. It comes through awareness. The moment you stop that, everything will halt and you'll stay there. And if you choose to do that, it's okay. Then just deal with what you will have. Don't expect anything to change. Sometimes people complain because they struggle, and even I listened to a podcast. Sorry, this ties to awareness. I listened to a podcast the other day. It was so amazing, where Jordan Peterson, they had an interview with him, and they talked. The guy asked about depression, and Peterson said an amazing thing. He said, if you struggle with depression, just make sure you're not confusing it with having terrible life. Of course, it's a different thing. It's not the same. Some people have a terrible life out of their own making, and they call it depression. It's not that. A terrible life, you're engaged either through your own making or through something that happened to you or happens to you, and you deal with that differently than you do depression. Now, what I want to say is, to have awareness is to take you to also distinguish, what am I dealing with here? Is it a beneath the surface type of thing that's emotional, psychological? Is it depression, or am I just facing challenges? That's tough. And therefore I feel down, and but I'm not depressed. I'm just working hard to get out of it. It's something else. And you can only do that distinction and discernment through awareness. Maybe that's the last thing I want to say, is the greatest gift that awareness gives you, I think, is discernment. More where you are, the more you can discern. And if you have discernment, you can make choices, right?
Perfectly said. Let's leave it right there.
Okay.
Insightful conversation. If anyone feels drawn to contacting you from what you've shared today, how can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, they're welcome to email me. You can just send an email to me at dries@strengthsynergy.co.za. Maybe you can put it on a link somewhere with this podcast. Welcome to reach out in that way. You can even send me a message through Facebook. I'm on Facebook or social media. Just go look for me there and send me a message as well, and I'll respond on that if you want to. So I'm reachable. And you're welcome as well if you want to connect for some reason. Be glad to.
Thank you, Dries. I know that time is certainly valuable, as you've explained, and I'm grateful that you've given me a significant amount of it. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Ryan. Same to you. Appreciate you.